Mr. Melvin Yong.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I stand in support of the bill, which seeks to better protect the welfare of children identified for adoption. According to data from the MSF, there's an average of 400 adoptions a year in Singapore. While this number is not large, each and every adoption could mean a better future for the child, especially if the birth parents are unable or unsuited to raise the child properly. I therefore support the extensive proposals to enhance our local adoption laws and practices. However, I have a few clarifications and suggestions. Let me first start by speaking about children in foster care. Sir, there are many children currently in foster care or who have been in a children's home for years who would benefit from being adopted into a caring and stable family. However, couples who wish to adopt such children face roadblocks when the child's birth parents do not consent to the adoption. To address this issue, the bill makes clearer the proposed thresholds and circumstances and specifies more grounds under which the courts will allow the adoption to proceed without the birth parents' consent. However, the issue of the courts dispensing with the consent of birth parents in the adoption process is not new, as there are prevailing case law examples. I would like to ask if any of the proposed provisions go against prevailing case laws, and if so, what are the reasons for this? I would also like to ask what will be the protections given to the adopted child and the adoptive family to prevent birth parents who did not provide their consent from harassing the family. In cases where the birth parent was found to have intentionally caused grievous physical hurt or mental trauma to the child, it is vital that we do all we can to help the child get a clean break from the cycle of abuse. Adoptive parents, too, should be protected from harassment and be given a safe and conducive environment to care for their adopted child. Next, I will touch on deterring undesirable behaviors in the adoption sector. Sir, I welcome the bill's proposal to introduce offences to protect the welfare of the children identified for adoption and to ensure the integrity of adoption processes and practices in Singapore. Specifically, the bill proposes to make adoption practices more transparent by making clear what are allowable adoption-related payments and to require all adoption agencies to clearly publish information on their fees. But is this sufficient to combat existing unscrupulous practices in the adoption sector? A recent news report published by Channel News Asia followed the story of an adoptive parent who tried to adopt a newborn in Singapore 4 years ago, but was forced to return the baby to the birth parent after refusing to pay questionable additional fees to the birth parent and the adoption agency. Is this a prevalent practice in Singapore where adoptive children are being, and I quote, sold as merchandise to the highest bidder? How many such cases have the MSF come across in the past 5 years? Can MSF therefore consider regulating the fees charged by adoption agencies in Singapore? While I understand that adoption agencies currently charge different rates due to a variety of reasons, such as childbirth expenses, we should rein in adoption agencies that try to profiteer from adoptive parents. I would like to propose for MSF to gazette in subsidiary legislation the permissible fees charged by adoption agencies and review these fees regularly in consultation with the industry to ensure that the fees are both reasonable and updated. Simply put, we can and we must end the abhorrent practice of giving babies to the highest bidder. Lastly, I hope that more Singaporeans can consider becoming foster parents to vulnerable children and young persons who are in need of a loving home environment. According to MSF data, the number of children and young persons in foster care has remained stable at about 540 in the past 3 years. Can the MSF provide an update on its efforts to encourage more families to step forward to become foster parents? Various research papers and anecdotal stories posted online have documented the multitude of challenges involved in fostering. It can indeed be stressful to be foster parents. In addition to the traditional stresses of caregiving, foster parents must build rapport with the child, who often might come from a troubled background and therefore finds it difficult to trust his new caregivers. Some foster parents have shared that they sometimes receive a late call-up to foster a child, and this would spark a last-minute shopping rush for clothes and essential items, and also to make urgent childcare arrangements. To alleviate these challenges, can the ministry consider providing foster parents with additional childcare leaves beyond what are already provided for under the Child Development Co-Savings Act and the Employment Act? Sir, the proposed amendments to the Adoption of Children Act are vital to ensure that more vulnerable children have access to adoption and are able to receive the best opportunity to grow up in a safe, stable, and loving family. As we enhance the Act to improve the adoption processes and weed out undesirable behavior within the industry, I hope also that more Singaporeans will consider fostering and adopting children who are in need of a loving family. Sir, I support the bill.